Now, this is an important DVD review, and it's a reflection of George Lucas's work. I feel it's important. You feel it's important. So, because of George Lucas, this movie happened. So, why don't we take a closer look at it? Are you ready for it? Fuck that movie. Fuck that movie. Okay. THX 1138. Now, this is the 51st anniversary. This was created in March 11th, 1971. This was George's first movie. Actually, his first movie was the student film THX 1138. I think it's E4SB or Earthborn, like Earthbound, something like that. EB, 4EB, I think it's called THX 1138 4EB. And this is the professional version, starring Robert Duvall, lots of different actors. I'm trying to remember who all these people were. Donald Pleasance, who was Loomis, Dr. Loomis in the original Halloween. This is Francis Ford Coppola producing, Maggie McComey, many different people. This is a movie, and this is the only George Lucas movie not owned by Disney, because this was pre-Lucasfilm. In fact, if you look at the back of this is a 2004 re-release here. With the CG, you didn't think George was going to re-release this movie without putting some CGI tinkery in here, did you? You see the Warner Brothers logo, you see DVD, but this was actually American Zoetrope, which was a Francis Ford Coppola founded production, which appeals more to the individual independent filmmakers. This is American Zoetrope is the mom and pop movie studio company, as opposed in big contrast to Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, Disney, Lionsgate, XYZ. This movie, and we're going to just give away spoilers because of the nature. This movie is more educational than it is. It's more informative and educational than it is a hype train like Star Wars. Okay, this would lead to American Graffiti and then Star Wars. But when we first see this movie, we are looking at Buck Rogers starring Buster Crabbe. Buster Crabbe was the original sci-fi hero who was in the original sci-fi movies. Now, the original Buck Rogers was a World's Fair. Remember we had World's Fair? Nobody does. Anybody who remembers a World's Fair is too old to be on this earth. But we had World's Fair exhibits, and they had the first Buck Rogers movie, which was very crude. Like spaceships on strings. When the spaceship hit the moon in the eye, and you had spaceships on strings, and they had the first Buck Rogers actors. It's all cheesy stuff, but it was the wonders of the future, okay? But right after that, we had the first Flash Gordon serials, and Buster Crabbe did Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. So you're looking at Buck Rogers. When you look at this, if you've watched all the Star Wars movies, we're going to bounce back and forth between Star Wars and THX, okay? Because, Disney owns THX, the technology, but not the movie. But anyway, when we look at the previews and the trailers for Buck Rogers of 1939, we're treated to Coruscant, the future, the Jedi Temple, the Jedi going to work. So Buster Crabbe, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers represents the Jedi protecting the innocent, doing their duty, and helping people, stopping the bad guys who might be the Sith or the Separatists. And he helps save the future, and he builds the world of tomorrow in the 25th century. But let's say we now are still in the 25th century, but now all the structures that would be on the planets, that the cities and the future cities that Buck Rogers defends, are now underground. So everything you look at is in white and black and white, just no color, just white and black. You see numbers, you see letters, you see digital counters, you see analog counters, You see tape and wires and cable and lasers. You'll see future cars. You'll see cars that are like race cars that look like they could be from the 80s, yeah, and they're in the early 70s. These lots curvaceous cars. You're reminded of Coruscant. You're reminded of this sort of city where people just live in it. Okay, everybody they have their heads shaved bald. They wear white clothing. They're watching holograms of black dudes and black women, all bald, in erotica and conversations. So imagine YouTube and television, and they're all merged together to form these holographic entertainment for people. And it's all limited. The underground structure of the future, after Buck Rogers left, is this corporate, high-tech, big-tech drivel. Everybody goes to work. Basically, the main character here, THX, which is kind of symbolic for the X, the unknown, right? Robert Duvall is this bean counter. He puts together droids that are the cops. These cops here are, somewhere between the battle droids of the prequel trilogy and the stormtroopers of the original trilogy. So they're these silver guys, and every once in a while they'll bang their head against the wall. Somebody will be reading numbers off a wall. Somebody will be making a mistake because, like the Death Star, like Coruscant, like the Empire ruling Coruscant, it's too perfect. The Empire, Palpatine and the Galactic Empire gives you everything, gives you the comforts of modern technology and modern things. And this was made in 1971, about 2 years before George Lucas was even writing Star Wars. And he put this out because Francis Ford Coppola looked at his short film, his rough draft version of this movie, and took a chance on him. And Warner Brothers took a chance on random filmmakers who could have just been in college. I mean, George Lucas could have been a teacher. He would have been a college teacher today if Francis Ford Coppola had not taken pity upon him and helped him out. George Lucas would have been working on cars, or he would have been a teacher, a college teacher on film. And you never would have heard of Star Wars. And Disney would have been still banging their heads around, figuring out what to do, remake Disney classics in live action, right? So all the stuff you're seeing here, it's basically the world of tomorrow. And it's basically, all it is that THX 1138, okay? Robert Duvall has to get out of the superstructure that's underground, safe from war, safe from tanks and missiles and airdrops. This super safe structure of modern times with holograms and him buying these dodecahedrons, these red, yellow, and blue ones. Buy the product. Remember that meme, that recent meme that you saw? Buy product, consume product, shut the fuck up, consume the next product. That is literally what happens in this movie. And this movie is way old before that meme. And one of Robert Duvall's crimes is that, besides the fact that he stopped taking his drugs, which opened him up to the idea of making love. So he makes love to his female roommate, his counterpart. There's some sexuality, there's some nudity. Here he is walking with these droid officers. And there's a big old chase scene, not unlike the speeder bike chase or the speeder chase in Attack of the Clones. Here's Robert Duvall losing his mind a bit because they put implants in him. Here's the big car chase at the end. He meets a black guy who's a hologram. All the black dudes are holograms, and all the white dudes are just in prison. More driving. There's a lot going on here, a lot of themes. But in the end, I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. It's the adult Star Wars. It always will be the adult Star Wars. This is the girl. So they have sex. And by having sex, by stop taking his medicine, by stop consuming products and buying the next product, by going outside, at the end of this, he goes outside to Tatooine, and he sees that big one sun sink. And that's when he realizes that it's like the ending is like the beginning to Breath of the Wild. Isn't that something? That is what it is. 10 out of 10.